There is a disturbing trend spreading amongst the halls of Western higher education, in which students feel entitled to refuse to learn certain topics for fear of being made to feel uncomfortable. From trigger warnings to safe spaces, the great institutions of free thought are becoming increasingly constrained and degraded as oversensitive young students police the words and thoughts of their teachers and peers. This trend of hypersensitivity is stunting the mental and social development of these students, as it teaches them that rather than confront ideas that they disagree with, the correct response is to hide from them or demand that they be silenced. To spend these vital formative years insulated from anything that may challenge them ensures that these students are developing in an echo chamber, a situation that would render them incapable of mature and rational discourse once they enter the adult world. There are plenty of videos and articles addressing the dangers of this perverse and irrational trend, some of which I shall link below, but I would like to offer my thoughts in regard to how these ideas would entirely destroy the validity and useful study of my field of expertise, military history. Military history is often conflated with the study of war, which is a largely fair appraisal, and in itself that description should demonstrate the incompatibility of such a field with the notions of trigger warnings and mental security. Put bluntly, if you really don't want to hear about death and mutilation, then military history is probably not a subject for you. Yet what we are seeing in so many of these cases of word policing is students who deliberately choose subjects that would obviously contain issues that they disliked, and then demand that the style of teaching be changed to fit their irrational whims. The case of Harvard law students requesting not to be taught about rape laws is an obvious example. How could one hope to succeed in the field of law if one were unprepared to learn about such vital elements of legal code? To gain a proper understanding of a subject, you must study all of it. In my opinion, the most important elements are the ones you find uncomfortable, as therein lie some of the most important facts. When studying history at large, it is best to remember that, for the most part, the past was brutal and horrible. The modern mind recoils at the atrocities human beings were able to commit upon one another. But people in the past were very similar to you or I, and to willfully forget what human beings are capable of is to dismiss the greatest lesson that history can imbue. To remove elements from a field of study because people might find them distressing is to willingly alter the subject and skew the lessons that can be taught to fit the new teacher or student's agendas. In the past, only tyrannical regimes have sought to modify history to fit their own ideals and goals, which is a lesson that these hypersensitive new students should try to remember. People should go into further education to be challenged, and history is a challenging subject precisely because of all the variables inherent. By requesting your teacher not to study certain aspects, you make yourself a failure. You admit that you are incapable of studying that subject properly, and you do not deserve to become certified in that field if you think you do not have to understand it fully, regardless of the reason. This of course relates to the general dumbing down of education that stems from the notion of everyone being a winner and that everyone deserves to go on to university. I won't delve down that particular abyss of a rabbit hole here, but suffice it to say, no they aren't, and no they don't. Some people fail at things. They will fail in real life, and if you pretend that they won't during their education, you're doing more harm than good, and degrading the value of higher qualifications to boot. People choose military history in particular, I believe, because of a certain voyeuristic element inherent in our species that wants to see the true scope of what human beings can do to one another. There are many armchair generals, as well, who approach the subject with a fascination of war as a great game, and it is important for them as well to see the brutality, to remember what is at stake. The grand strategic masterstrokes are always accompanied by hideous deaths and destruction. War is, I believe, an inevitable accompaniment to human existence, and those who study it have a responsibility to understand every aspect of it, good and ill. In my time studying, I heard accounts of torture, saw pictures of fields of bodies, and even learnt of wars where rape was seen as a legitimate weapon. Learning about atrocities and horror, I think, gave me a far more vital understanding of the human condition than any study of tactics. To conclude, I would just like to say that it was forgetting the horrors of war and a life led seeing conflict as a glorious endeavour that led the young men of Europe to sign up in their thousands in the summer of 1914 in the beginnings of a conflict that would ultimately lead to the deaths of almost 100 million people. Many people know the phrase, "lest we forget," but let it be true not only of the lives lost in all the wars our species has endured, but the manner of the losing as well.